from District 8. This public meeting is being recorded. It is being live streamed at boston.gov City Council TV and broadcast on Xfinity Channel 8, RCN Channel 82, FiOS Channel 964. This meeting is to hear public testimony regarding redistricting from residents of District 3, which is Frank Baker's district, District 7, which would make your councilor Tanya Fernandez-Anderson, and District 8, which would make your councilor Kenzie Bach. If you are interested in testifying, please email michelle.a.goldberg@boston.gov. I will now turn it over to my council colleagues for some brief opening remarks. As chair, I'm going to allow the councilors whose districts are the focus of today's meeting to go first, starting with Councilor Bach. And as other councilors appear, I will let them go. And then the rest of my colleagues in order of arrival. Councilor Bach, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Coming to you live from Mission Hill. I'm actually in transit, so I'll be here throughout the hearing, but may have my camera off for a bit. I just wanted to say that I'm really glad we're doing this process. I love all 5 neighborhoods in my district, so if I could wave a magic wand and have nothing change, I would be fine with that. But I know that, you know, we have to do this process. It's important so that people have equal representation. And I think that in the midst of doing that, sorry, it's so loud. You know, it's especially important that we make sure that our communities are, you know, able to stay together, especially, you know, our communities of interest, communities of color around the city, and you know, neighborhoods like Mission Hill that I represent that have historically been cut up in these processes. I think it's important to find ways to unite them. So yeah, so that's, you know, I'll be listening with attention to what everyone says and looking forward to how we can have an equitable process that leaves everybody in our city feeling well represented at the council level. So thank you so much, and sorry for the background noise.
No worries. Thank you for joining us, Councilor Bach, even as you're commuting. Councilor Fernandez-Anderson, you came at an apt moment. I'm letting the districts who are the focus of today to go first. Councilor Bach just went, and if you are ready and able, I'd like to give you a chance to give an opening statement.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for holding this hearing. And of course, redistricting is a really important topic. Looking forward to hearing from the community, of course, their feedback, input, suggestions. I think that the point that my colleague, Councilor Bach made was super important. Of course, unifying the community, but also keeping the community together in an equitable process is extremely important. So looking forward to this process. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilor Fernandez-Anderson. And now, Councilor Braden, if you have any opening comments, I'd like to give you the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm really here to listen. I come from Alston Brighton District 9, which is a very stable neighbourhood district that is unlikely to change very much. So I'm really here I appreciate the points that my 2 colleagues have made about, you know, making sure that we keep communities together in this process. And I look forward to learning and listening this evening. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilor Braden. And so I will do a quick PowerPoint presentation. And what I really want to come out of this is community comments. What we will do is we have some folks who have signed up for community comments already. I will keep, after the last person who gives community comment goes, I will keep this meeting adjourned for another 15 to 20 minutes in case other folks show up or sign up so that we can give folks an opportunity. But if you are watching this on repeat and not live because you came to this much later, you can come to any of the next 2 sessions we're going to have on this, which are about other districts, but I want everybody to give community comment when they're able to do so. And so if you are looking to do that, we'll be doing those the next 2 Thursdays. Moving forward, we'll post those, you will see those, you'll be able to find those. But these are community listening sessions to hear from community what they are hoping to see from our redistricting process. And with that, Carrie, if you are able to start the slideshow. Thank you so much. So first and foremost, welcome to the first of our 3 district-centered public listening sessions on 2022 redistricting. As I mentioned in the meeting opening, my name is Councilor Arroyo. I'm actually the chair of the redistricting committee, and this is the first of what will be many communications with our neighborhoods about this process. If we can go to the next slide. This is what I mentioned before, which is that public listening sessions are important to me. And so we will be doing one, which you are obviously here today for, which is districts 3, 7, and 8. Next Thursday, the 31st at 6:30 p.m., we will be doing districts 4, 5, and 6. And then Thursday, April 7th at 6:30 p.m., we'll be doing districts 1, 2, and 9. If you do not live in those districts, if you live in this district, but you're coming to this late, you can join us for either of those other two and give comments for your district in those community comment sessions. I don't want anyone to feel like they've missed that opportunity. Next slide, please. Some other important dates to keep in mind: we'll begin holding hearings on the redistricting process this summer after the budget. Right now we are this month coming up. That's when we really begin the budget process in earnest. And so our focus as a council will be on the budget. And then as soon as that is concluded, we will begin the redistricting process in earnest, which will be this summer. And will also include more opportunities for public testimony. And the new legislative district map that will come out of the committee process will go into effect in the election of November of 2023. So the map that comes out of our process will be active for the elections following the next municipal elections, which are November of 2023. This is the redistricting process. Redistricting is the process of drawing lines of districts from which public officials are elected. The Boston City Council is responsible for this process at the municipal level. The state just went through this process at the state level. Districts are redrawn according to 2020 census data, and those remain in place for 10 years. So the last time we did this process was exactly 10 years ago. It's very easy to think about how different the city is now as to how the city was 10 years ago. The goal of redistricting is to reflect population changes and racial diversity within our districts and to ensure that that exists in an appropriate way. And so that all comes from the census data. Next slide, please. The way that this process works is that districts are redrawn with precincts as the smallest unit available for us to sort of shape. Using the 2020 census data, the committee will work on redrawing districts with equal populations. Our maps will need to avoid excessive deviation in population between districts, as well as follow rules set out by the Voting Rights Act. And so what constitutes discriminatory maps based on the Voting Act's unequal population? So if there's an excessive deviation, if one district, for instance, if District 5 has many thousands more people than District 2, so excessive deviation, violating the Voting Rights Act, and cracking and packing. Cracking meaning there's a concentration of ethnic diversity or some version of diversity, and we crack it. We put district lines in between it to weaken it, or packing those centers so that they actually are weakened in their power because they're all focused in one district or two districts when they could be 3 or 4, for instance. So that's sort of a quick definition of cracking and packing. If you can give me the next slide. And so this is a sample breakdown of the population changes from 2010 to 2020. You can find these on the census website and also on our committee's redistricting website. And so this is just a good idea of just how much of a change we've seen in the population of Boston since 2010, since our last census. It's a pretty significant uptick. If we can go to the next slide. Our committee will be hosting all of our hearings and working sessions virtually until further notice. We are committed to an open and transparent process, so all maps will be posted publicly for review and comment. We are not at the point yet where we've created any maps. Our redistricting website is officially live. It includes dates and times for future public listening sessions and other resources, and will be updated throughout the process and as future sessions are scheduled. That redistricting website is www.boston.gov/departments/city-council/2022. And actually there's a hyphen in between city council, so city council -/2022-redistricting-Boston. And it will be hopefully a one-stop shop for all your redistricting needs. And with that, we can move on to public testimony. Our central staff has let me know that we have 3 people signed up for public testimony as of right now. When we go to you, please state your name and place of residence and make sure that your Zoom profile name matches the name from which you signed up to testify. And so if we can invite those three that are present up into the panelists so that we can go in order of signing up to testify. Thank you. While we get that up and running, I'm going to allow Tim Davis. You will be going first. Just please introduce yourself and take it away. The floor is yours. I'm actually, because we only have 3 people, I'm not even putting a time limit on this. Just please don't keep me going for 10 minutes. Okay. Then I might have to get a fake gavel somewhere. But otherwise, I'd love to hear everybody who's here's thoughts. We don't have to be constrained by 2 minutes because I have 3 of you signed up right now. So, okay. Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Chairman Arroyo. Tim Davis. I live in the Ashmont section of Dorchester in District 3. I have also, in my 30 years, lived in Districts 4, 7, and 8. So I can kind of speak to all those as well. When I first moved to Boston, I was involved with the Greater Boston Gay and Lesbian Political Alliance. And I did an analysis for them. I'm a geographer, a cartographer, where we looked at how the then city council districts in the early 90s actually diluted the LGBT vote. And as part of that, it was very clear that because South Boston and the South End were together, there was the LGBT vote was diluted there. And it was again diluted in Jamaica Plain because Jamaica Plain and West Roxbury were together. As a part of this, we also supported a very broad civil rights-oriented redistricting coalition that formed after the 1990 census to really outline the fact that the city also had a much more dramatic problem, which was that districts 4 and 7 were originally drawn to pack the Black vote into those 2 districts. So after the night, so those district lines were originally drawn for the 1983 elections. The city was 32% BIPOC. There was only 15% of the representation was Black. In 1990, the city was 41% persons of color, and there was still only 15% representation in the city council. After the 2000 census and redistricting, again, we increased to 23% BIPOC representation. There was never a person of color elected to any district outside of 4 and 7 until Lydia Edwards was elected in 2017 to the council in District 1. And of course, Councilor Arroyo, you were the next one to break a barrier by District 5 becoming the next district for that to happen. So while we have a city council today that I think truly does better represent our city's population, and I'm very proud that we're at that point now, I think it is the time that we think about looking at the districts as a whole, seeing how some of the districts still remain packed, and maybe this is the time to think about having some of the communities, some of the lines redrawn, while still respecting the different communities and neighborhoods that we have, as well as those who are already on the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. And I appreciate you giving another thing for the committee to be mindful of as well in terms of when and how we do this, the concentrations of LGBTQ communities and sort of their political power is also incredibly important to pay attention to. And so I appreciate you highlighting that for us. Carolyn Chu, I believe it's Chu. If I pronounce that incorrectly, please correct me. I hate getting names wrong, but the floor is now yours.
Thank you, Councilor Arroyo. And yeah, that's correct. So yeah, my name is Carolyn Chu. I'm a resident of District 3 in the St. Mark's area, and I work at the Asian American Resource Workshop, which is also located in District 3 in Fields Corner. And yeah, I mean, to what Tim was saying, right, on my 1 mile walk to work, I walk between District 3 and District 4, I think 3 times, and along Dorchester Ave. And so I think, you know, I have some stuff to share as part of the Drawing Democracy Coalition and work we've done on state redistricting. But I think just, you know, at a very like block by block level, I do think it's important, you know, as we think about packing and cracking, like how we can think about Dorchester holistically and understand, in a diverse, large neighborhood in the city, how we can draw the District 3, District 4 line in the best way to get us, the most equitable representation in both districts, and really think about, it's never going to be perfect, but some of the natural contours in both districts and how we can get to districts that really represent how diverse our neighborhood is, especially, and it's a changing neighborhood too. So when we think about gentrification and what's to come, how we can also anticipate some of the future changes to the neighborhood and how to maintain the voice of people of color and working class people, and the different ethnic racial communities. And even just, as an Asian American organization, I know we might not be able to get fully disaggregated data, but really thinking about, the long-standing working class Vietnamese refugee community versus other Asian folks who may be moving in to the district, and how we can just make sure that we're paying attention to those specificities, right, as we're thinking about District 3 and District 4. And I think, more broadly at the coalition level, just wanted to say, I think it's very aligned with what you presented, but, we want to make sure that there are unifying maps that don't divide our neighborhoods and are beneficial for community representation. And as you said, the principle of creating districts that create opportunities for fair representation and don't pack people of color or crack communities. And, really long-term, we're excited to engage with the city to have strong community co-governance around redistricting. And for this cycle, we are recommending a community commission to independently analyze and propose to the council some opportunities for increasing political opportunity. And so, yeah, we hope there's room for community commission within this process, and yeah, I think would be really interested from my organization, my personal position as a District 3 resident, to really think about Dorchester. I think it's complicated to think about how we draw it, but to really have a holistic Dorchester conversation that allows us to draw the line to get the best 2 districts we can.
Thank you so much. These are both very strong public testimony. That's why I'm glad we're doing this. And so, one of the things I will just say is the characters of our neighborhoods are very interesting in that we have a very integrated sort of communities, but we also have very segregated sort of specific community subsets that exist within our communities. And so making sure that we don't dilute any of these common sort of purpose areas is incredibly important to me. And so how we do that when we get into Dorchester and all these neighborhoods will be incredibly important, I think, moving forward. So thank you, Carolyn. And Cindy, I'm going to take a stab here at your last name, and I hope I don't ruin this. But Cindy, is it Cindy Walling?
Yes, it is.
Oh, it's Walling. I got it right the first time.
No S on the end. It's just simply Walling. It's often pluralized for some reason.
Thank you. The floor is yours.
Oh, thanks so much. So I am in Mission Hill, sometimes referred to as a second-tier neighborhood in District 8. And, I really want to just further echo the other comments that were made by Kenzie Bach, our counselor, and Carolyn about, not dividing our neighborhood. Mission Hill is a really small neighborhood, I think not much more than 1 square mile. And we have the lowest home ownership rates in the city, even beating out Alston. We're at 10% now. Our state Senate districts were just recently redrawn. And the last thing this neighborhood needs is more bifurcation between districts and state Senate and state rep seats. I can't stress enough how this district needs, or our neighborhood needs to be kept whole. If we're to move out of District 8 and into a different district, we need to go part and parcel. And the neighborhood has worked hard on a lot of different areas of Mission Hill. 1 Gurney Street, the Maria Sanchez house, the back of the hill, which are currently not, in our district. So that's about all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Walling. And so I don't know if we've had anybody else sign up I do want to read again into the record. If you are seeking or interested in testifying, please email Michelle, Michelle.a.goldberg, GOLDBERG @boston.gov. Shout out to our BCYF spelling bee champs, by the way, because that just made me think of them. But we are going to have a 10 to 15 minutes break here. I'm going to go ahead and say 15 minutes, which would put us at it's 6:56. I know Councilor Braden has to go. And so I do want to give Councilor Braden an opportunity to give a quick closing statement. And then we will do a recess, not an adjournment, a recess for 10 minutes once you are done. Thank you, Councilor Braden. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to thank the folks who took the time to submit very thoughtful and very important commentary and testimony this evening. This is a complex issue, and the issues you raised were very, very important to take note of, and will certainly inform our process going forward. So thank you for your participation this evening. And thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Braden. Certainly will inform our process. And I do hope that as we continue through this process and we get to the maps and the sort of citywide hearings that will happen later in the summer, that we hear from you again as well. So with that, unless anybody, I know we have Councilor Tanya Anderson still here and Councilor Bach is still here. If either one of you would like to give a closing before we recess for 10 minutes to give a chance for somebody else to show up, if anybody else is going to show up, I'm happy to cede the floor to either Councilor Bach or Councilor Anderson at this time.
Mr. Chair, I'll wait. I'll stay through the recess.
Perfect. So we can give you that at that time. And then Councilor Anderson, if you have to go, I understand and can give you your closing now, or if you want to wait till 7:10. All right, 7:10 it is. So we are on a recess until 7:10. I will bring us back out of recess if anybody shows up in that time. And I just also want to thank our central staff for working tonight, Carrie Jordan and Michelle Goldberg for going above and beyond as you often do. Thank you both. And with that, we are recessed. just want to note that we've been joined by Councilor Frank Baker from District 3. Councilor Baker, we have heard from some folks. This is a community testimony section. I would love to give you a chance to do an opening while we wait. We did get one more new sign up that we are just waiting to have join us so that they can give their public comments. So we were in recess for that. We are now out of recess. And so Councilor Baker, whenever you are ready, I'd like to give you the floor to go ahead and give sort of a opening or really whatever you'd like to say about the process.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I apologize for coming on late. I just have some things going on at home, and thank you for having this. And at some point, maybe you can, and if you already, it can always be a conversation between you and I as to what the charge on this is going to be this year. I know 10 years ago when we did it, it was my first thing that I actually undertook as a new counselor. And it was all about the north part of the city growing and needing to drop precincts in my southern boundary and go north. And of course, a whole lot, that's very simplistic there, but that was one of the main charges of what we needed to do. So at some point, if you can give us a rundown on which way this is going to go. And again, I apologize for showing up late. I'm on my phone. I'm going to my house when I get on there. So now towards the end, whatever is good for you, Mr. Chair.
No, I can do it now while we wait for the person signed up. And I will just say, Councilor Baker, if you have anybody who is in your district, and that's true for Councilor Bacher, Councilor Fernandez Anderson, anybody who tells you that they would like to talk about redistricting or haven't talked about redistricting, we do have 2 more redistricting meetings for this before we hit the budget. The redistricting maps will really be after the budget where we're really jumping into this, but I want to give community comment time. So if anybody comes up to you, you can tell them, even if it's not their district, they can join and say their piece about the district that they do live in. As to your question about North and South, what I am seeing is something like District 2, which is Ed Flynn's district, being up about 13,000 people, and your district being down about 7,500 people, something like that. And so it's pretty much what you experienced 10 years ago. It's a big growth to the north of you, and then figuring out how we accommodate that growth in sort of that in making proportional districts. So that is likely what you will have to expect again.
And one more comment would be, so in last time it was very much about, most of the changes were between 3, 4, and 7. It was like kind of a mashup for those three districts, moving things around. So I assume it's going to be the same. And I see you nodding your head. Thank you. Yeah. So and my last thing that I want to know is, what's our timeline here? I know everything was pushed back through COVID and based on the Fed maps and then the state maps. So what is our drop dead? We need maps. We need a map that the city council signs off on, and then the mayor signs on. Like, what is our timeline?
So hopefully we do this well before then, but the drop dead date is November. So basically it has to be, because people need to live in a district for a year before the election. Our elections are November 2023. And so we need to have a map approved by the mayor before the next municipal election 2023 day, which would be, I got to go look at the calendar, but it would be the 2nd Tuesday of November, whatever that is. So we have to, that is, the drop dead date is a year before that date.
Okay, so we do have some time. It was a little more. The last time the timeline was a little bit different. It was well, whatever. Yeah. So thank you. We do have some time here, is what it seems like. If we don't have, not that we want to wait until.
Precisely. Not that we want to wait, but we do have. It's not. We should not be under intense timing pressure to do this. We should be able to get everybody heard. We should be able to have sort of a deliberative process. We shouldn't have to rush this. We will have until November. Again, I'd like to, because if the mayor vetoes it, something goes wrong, we kind of need to get it done before November, obviously, but we have the summer and the early fall to get this done. And with that, I believe we've been joined by our public comment member here, Allison Pultinas. Hello, Allison.
Oh, hi. Thank you so much for doing this in the evening. Crazy times. So I live in Mission Hill. So I want to talk about District 8, and I live on the back of the hill. So I don't vote in 8. I vote in 6, which is very odd because I live on a Mission Hill street. And so there are some very strange boundaries between 6 and 8, and they need to be corrected. Councillor Bach ends up with a few streets in Jamaica Plain and Mission Hill streets, the south side of Fisher, moving towards Jamaica Plain, ends up in District 6. And it doesn't quite make sense because District 6 has plenty of other things to think about than Mission Hill. And so we go to Councillor Bach as our counselor, but of course she isn't. So it's a very odd phenomena. And the polling places are quite a distance from where people live. And to vote, you're actually walking by other polling places that aren't your counselor's district. So it feels a very strange mix. The streets in District 6 that shouldn't be in Mission Hill include, I believe, Naira Avenue behind the Hennigan School and so on. So I know District 6 is not part of this discussion, but it's something that needs to change. It's what you call gerrymandering. And that's what happened several years ago. I don't think it would alter diversity issues or anything like that. There's definitely been new housing added in both areas, but Mission Hill belongs with District 8, and District 6 can stick with Heath Street, I would say. So that's my testimony. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, Allison. And thank you for taking the time out of your day to bring that to us. And we will certainly take all of these great testimonies we've gotten today, frankly, into account. So thank you very much, Allison.
Sure. Thank you.
And with that, I will extend it because we got somebody to join in that time. I will extend it another 5 minutes here for sign up. So if you are listening, here is the email that you are reaching out to if you would like to testify. It is Michelle, MICHELLE.A.Goldberg, which is GOLDBERG @boston.gov. If you would like to add your 2 cents to this discussion. If you are seeing this on a replay, please join us in next Thursday, which is March 31st. We will be focusing on districts 4, 5, and 6, or on April 7th when we are focusing on districts 1, 2, and 9. However, if you do not know which district you are in, or you are unable to make any of these other dates and you weren't able to make this date because you're watching this on a replay, then please join us at the next available date to you so that we can hear from you on this process. It really doesn't make much of a difference in terms of whether you're in 4, 5, 6, or 1, 2, and 9. What's important is what you have to say. So please join us so that we can hear from you during these different listening sessions. And again, after the summer, we will also be, or well, during the summer, throughout the summer, we will be doing these as well. And so thank you. And with that, I know I have Councilor Anderson and Councilor Bach and Councilor Baker still here. If either of you have to go, any of you have to go and would like to give a closing now rather than at 7:25 to give folks a chance to sign up if they are listening. If any of you would like to give a closing now, please feel free to do so. Otherwise, I'll recess until we have somebody join back or until 7:25, whichever one comes first.
Hello, Mr. Chair. It's
Yep.
Frank again. Sorry, I got cut off. So some of the maybe I'll just say some of the things that are important to me in this charge here. I know when the state took this up, they were looking to cut off the top half of Ward 16 out of the first Suffolk Senate district, and that was a charge last time that they were looking to cut Ward 16 in half. That's something that I'm going to want to remain whole. I actually lost precincts 1 in 3 in 16, which was the continuum of Dot Ave for me, which was Fields Corner, an area that I thought needed quite a bit of help. So just that's one of the things that I'm going to look at doing. And of course, just because it's a precinct that's continuum doesn't necessarily mean that it should go with this district. There's a lot that goes into it, population, and of course a diversity in there. In 10 years ago, District 3 was the most diverse when it came to actual numbers. I think we were something like 38% white, and then 27% Black, and then broken down between one of the largest Asian communities. I had the Vietnamese community, and then the Latino community was there also in pretty decent numbers. So District 3 was quite in that, and I know some districts are heavy white or heavy Black, and so I like my district the way it is, and I'd like to keep it as intact as I possibly can. If I could retain or get back 16, 1 and 3, I would love that. But again, I'm looking forward to when we start, having those maps and really digging into it. And I guess that's going to, Mr. Chair, that's going to start happening in the summertime. We're going to start really digging into maps.
Yeah, so the process right now is, as you're probably seeing on the calendar, from April until we confirm a budget, it's going to be real tough times trying to schedule anything because of we try not to do 3 sessions in a day. Most of the Ways and Means hearing sessions are 2 a days. There's not a lot of openings in there. So the idea here is let the council focus on the budget as they should. And then once we have passed the budget, begin in earnest with the redistricting process, which would be the end of June. So you're talking about July, August, September. Hopefully we have a map ready to go by October that we can send over to the mayor so that she can approve it before that November deadline for us. But that's sort of the roadmap I see. If there's a way for us to sort of sneak in a couple redistricting hearings or community sessions throughout the budgetary process, just so folks don't get caught off guard with it coming up in the summer, I'm going to do that too. But that's the idea, is just to make sure that we're doing as many sort of sessions as is necessary. Because of open meeting law, we can't do a lot we can't do any discussions really about these in private at all. So basically having as many sessions as we can to ensure that everybody gets heard. And I think you have the largest deficit, Councilor Baker, in terms of population. So you are certainly going to be adding some areas. And so it's just going to be a question of what the map sort of immediately dictates to us, and then how we work that map to make sure everything else that you mentioned in terms of diversity and keeping communities whole sort of come in. But I think, you are spot on that this looks a lot like it did 10 years ago. It's the same districts that you flagged that are looking at probably the most negotiation and discussion over lines.
Yeah, and to speak to that a little bit, I living in the district my whole life, and to see that we're actually underpopulation, it doesn't feel like we're underpopulation. That leads me to believe that the people in my district, they're not counted in this census. I can't believe that when I first saw the numbers, I couldn't believe how short I was. I'm like, I was in awe of it, and
I agree with you.
That concerns me. My one critique maybe that I would say is, because when this happened 10 years ago, it was quite intense. And once we start digging into it, that's when people start, failing their districts and wanting to protect their districts. So I would suggest a couple things that, leave it all till the summer, that we do kind of sprinkle in there, even during budget season, some hearings. I would suggest in-person hearings, working sessions that councils are at, because ultimately it's us that are going to be making the decisions, and not, and I know you won't do this, but not leave it till the summer, till after our budget season, because I think some of us would like to have somewhat of a summer this year, Mr. Chair. Not making light of it, but the last time that I went through this, it was quite an intense process, and I think check-ins, more often check-ins would be better than less. And I would love to see us get in person for working sessions at some point.
Yeah, and I think, just to be honest with you, I agree with you that people start to get territorial about what they might lose and what they might gain. And as of right now, we can't even start to draw the maps. And so what I'll try to do is I'll look at May, which is about 2 months out, and see if we can get a date in there. I'll see if we can get a date in June, just to sort of keep folks aware of what we're talking about, so that they're ready and willing and able to start to sort of think through it the way they have. You got an advantage. I think you're the only person on the council who's actually gone through a redistricting process in the past. I don't think Michael Flaherty might have gone through it in 1999. He might have gone through the 2000 redistricting process, but I think you're the only one who's done it in the last cycle that is still on the council.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that would be true. And just so people know, I had like a 4-month headache during that, legitimate headache, sleepless nights. It was a very, very difficult process back then, 10 years ago. And my last comment that I want to make is, where are we on re-precincting and all that stuff, and how does that affect us?
So that's a good question. Right now, the elections department is wrapping that up. It has nothing to do with our committee. I've been told that they are, in fact, nearing the conclusion of that. The redistricting or re-precincting, rather, I believe is largely Councillor Bach's district and Councillor Flynn's district. It doesn't impact like the census numbers, but what it will certainly impact is the ability for us to even draw maps. So right now, because those precincts haven't been finalized, we can't even use the software to make maps. Like we couldn't even toy around with it right now in any real way. And so I've been told that we should expect those to be concluded relatively soon. But that process is the elections department. I don't believe it's going to change too much about what we're going to be doing in terms of the precincts that are moving from one place or another because of where this redistricting is. But, I think once I actually see what they actually put on the table, we'll have a better idea of what that is.
Okay, thank you very much for that clarification, and that can count as my closing statement. Thank you for having this hearing here tonight.
Thank you, Councilor Baker. And if you have anybody, because your district went through it last time, if you have anybody who says, hey, I want to talk about redistricting, where do I go? Please just direct them to either of the other two sessions we're going to have. It's fine if they're not in those districts. I just want to make sure we hear from folks.
Yeah, I think it's going to need to play out a little, like, people, it's still new for us here now. I think as we get into it more, that's when we'll see more people wanting to be involved. So this is just the beginning here. I would think, based on the last time, that this is going to get a lot more intense as we get closer and as we start to see maps shifting around, and like you said, people getting their backs up. So yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Baker. I'll just say that what I've heard about that time is you meet all kinds of folks from your districts you didn't know were interested in maps until all of a sudden you're working on it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Baker. I don't think we've had anybody new sign up to testify, and we're now nearing 7:30. So Councilor Bach, I'd like to give you a chance for a closing, and then as well as Councilor Anderson, or any comments really that you would like to make. So Councilor Bach, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Councilor Arroyo. I just want to thank everybody for testifying. I know we're still in the process of getting the word out about these, but I think we have very high quality testimony tonight. And I want to give a special shout out to Tim Davis just for bringing that kind of historical lens in and thinking about the history of the council and the districts, and obviously the very shift from all at large to at large and district. It was designed to get us a more representative council. And I think that keeping that promise means really thinking about how to have districts that, like you said, don't crack, don't pack, are each of them an opportunity for really fair representation of our neighborhoods. And so, excited for the folks, who all the residents who have spoken tonight, and everybody who wants to kind of do this work along with us. As you've heard tonight, and as I anticipated in my comments, Mr. Chair, Mission Hill definitely is a part of my district that feels like it kind of gets treated as between JP, Roxbury, and like the Fenway kind of Brookline neck of the woods. And so, and actually, you don't have to represent it very long to know what a strong sense of neighborhood identity there is and how much folks are looking out for each other across those lines. And so I do think that's something that that I hope that we can be attentive to, definitely. And yeah, just looking forward to continuing process. And I do think that we didn't get all the re-precincting changes that we wanted, but I think that some of the ones that did go in, and I know we don't have those final maps from elections, but I do think some of them will make things a little bit easier, even though they're not in the main part where we might anticipate shifts. Some of them are along the edges, and I think they do a better job of following natural boundaries in a few cases than our prior precincts had. So I'm hopeful that we will find that they are slightly more helpful building blocks, and maybe all the areas where we didn't do them will inspire us to do them in time for the next time around. But thank you so much. So it's a long, slow process, democracy. But thank you. Thanks for hosting this. And definitely I and my office will be looking forward to, being very involved in tracking all of these. So thank you.
And I would just issue an invite to folks who are Councilor Bach, Councilor Baker, Councilor Anderson, if you would like to be at the district sessions that are sort of bordering you to see what folks on the borders there are asking for or saying, you're more than welcome. And I will certainly give you the floor so that you can speak as well, because I think all of our districts have some neighborhood that feels severed in some way. I know with Rosendale, they always want sort of a full whole Rosendale. I have the majority of Rosendale, and some of it is in District 6, and I think there's a segment that might even be in District 4. And so there's always some of these neighborhoods, and that's part of our challenge. Councilor Tanya Anderson, if you would like to give a closing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I mean, I think on one hand, I think it is significant that both race and class makeup of communities not be further diluted. And then on the other hand, of course, we need to consciously counteract the forces of gentrification, right? With the high cost of living and in the city, through this process of the redistricting, I think we can do that. And I mean, otherwise the well-off will tend to swallow up, the Black and poor. And I think by fighting for the pair of communities or pairing of communities in redistricting process, then, we'll have similar needs and views, and hopefully that at least when I think of District 7 as it stands now, it's pretty much of a coherent community. And so like taking off chunks or pushing out the poorer communities outside of other districts, pushing them out of those districts that have already predominantly larger affluent populations, of course, poses a threat to the community. So majority of people of color in districts, I guess by definition, tend to be more working class, and will be more generally open to, politics or a spouse, and they will benefit from and largely support such policies. So I think it's essential that the racial economic integrity of such districts not be split, basically. And I can't reiterate this point enough. So I look forward to the process, and I look forward to supporting you, Mr. Chair, to bringing more community representatives to be able to fight for these very important purposes. Thank you so much for holding the hearing, and see you next time.
Thank you. And so I will just say thank you again to the quality. I agree with Councilor Bach. The quality of the public comment was phenomenal. And so I'm grateful to everybody who took time out of their day today to join us. I'm most definitely and most certainly grateful to Michelle Goldberg and Carrie Jordan for making it possible for us to have this hearing at these hours. They are working right now along with us. And so thank you very much to both of you. And I will just remind everybody that next week on Thursday, March 31st at 6:30 p.m., we'll be having another one of these community listening sessions for districts 4, 5, and 6. And then on April 7th, which is the Thursday after that, we will be doing one for district 1, 2, and 9. So thank you, everybody. If you missed this one, join us for those. They are both at 6:30. They are both on Thursdays, March 31st, Thursday, April 7th. And I look forward to having the same rich quality of public comment during those as well. So thank you, counselors. Thank you to our community folks who showed up today and engaged. And with that, we are adjourned.
Thanks.